Hello and welcome to the Anime Movie Podcast with your hosts, Kat
and Joe.
Today we are having a special episode where we're talking about the Demon Slayer movie currently in theaters.
Mm-hmm. At least here in America.
Yeah, at least in America, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, doing a little bonus episode for everybody, and we're testing out a little video thing, seeing if we're going to be doing a little video podcast. So we've got a couple cameras, a bunch of microphones set up all over the apartment. But
everything is recorded.
Yes.
Nothing will get past.
We will lose nothing for you.
So Demon Slayer is it a Netflix original?
No.
Great. Demon Slayer, available to stream on Netflix.
Yes.
Is one that kept getting suggested to me, and then eventually.
Yeah, I got it suggested to me from my friend Blake, who was like, I binge watched it and I watched the movie like immediately after. He was like, you gotta get into it. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then Kat watched it and was like, hey, I binge watched this and I want to see the movie, so you should binge watch it too. And I was like, oh God, now I have to do this. And I was like, well, now we can do a podcast about it at least.
And you're really committed. Like you
I did
it like it was your job.
Yeah, I did like 5 episodes a night for 5 nights in order to make it on time for when we saw the movie. But now here we are.
But here we are.
Watched the whole first season and the movie now, and we're reviewing it.
So this film is directed by Haruo, I think that's how you say it, Haruo Sotosaki.
Mm-hmm.
And the full name is Demon Slayer Mugen Train. Interestingly, I was looking into what the actual translation of the title is from Japanese, because it's Kimetsu no Yaiba. Mm-hmm. It means demon destroying blade.
Okay. That's nothing like Mugen Train at all.
No. Mugen Train is the sort of Mugen Train. It's the name of the movie. I mean, the original Japanese title of the series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was thinking about how there's so commonly like vampires and demons in anime, but demons and vampires are a very Christian idea.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if there was a better translation for it. But demons come up so often, and I don't know that English has a better word to translate what it means, or if it is the kind of Christian idea of a demon.
Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like a lot of times in anime, they don't refer to vampires as vampires. Like in this, it's like demons. In Tokyo Ghoul, I know they're called ghouls.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess in like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, they call them vampires, and I guess in Hellsing they call them vampires. But I don't know. It's weird to see like very similar vampiric type deals where like they can't go out in the sunlight and they suck on the blood of people, and it's not like referred to specifically as this is a vampire.
Yeah. I mean, and these are also, I guess they're flesh eating, but they do seem to be more blood drinking.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood, because I don't know how to do a spoiler free thing without spoiling the series. Yeah, because this show, like this movie, if you haven't seen the series, you're going to be completely lost.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that are interesting to me about this movie. Is that it essentially picks up exactly where the series left off, and the series ends in a place that there's no cliffhanger. They've been through some stuff, and now they've been training and recovering. And you kind of expect that to be leading to some kind of a big thing or another sort of tiny story arc or something. And it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that at the end of Demon Slayer, our 3 main characters are on a train platform.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. And one of the first scenes coming back into the movie is being on that train platform. So this movie kind of functions like the end of the series. It kind of felt like several episodes put together. It felt like binging it. It felt like binging the end of the series, with a very sort of high climactic sort of ending.
And the movie's around like hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours long. So it's kind of like binge watching like 6 episodes of it
Yeah.
at
Basically
once.
like what you did last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
You actually watched 5 Demon Slayer movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and each of them end with like a cliffhanger. But I think that the reason why we're making this kind of like a bonus thing is like we generally don't. So we're the anime movie podcast. We generally don't do like OVAs or series movies because it requires so much more watching of stuff. Like we watched the Steins Gate movie after we watched the entire Steins Gate series, but in order to know what's going on in the movie, you need to have seen the series. In order to know what's going on in the Demon Slayer movie, you need to have seen the series. And that's just such an insane time commitment that we don't always have. But luckily, we have done it. And that's why this is a bonus. So stay for regular episodes because those are just about regular anime movies.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, this is the highest grossing movie of 2020.
Highest grossing movie, period?
Yeah, of 2020.
Wow.
And it's the highest grossing anime movie of all time. And it's the highest
All time.
grossing.
So it surpassed Your Name last year.
I think so. I think that's what I read. And it also is, it says it's the highest grossing Japanese movie of all time.
Whoa. Wow, people love this.
Yeah, I didn't know that Demon Slayer was this popular, but I guess it is. I remember being on Reddit on the anime page, and it was like giving stats of how incredible the Demon Slayer movie and the Blu-rays are doing. So this is like a super, super popular thing that's going on. And yeah.
Well, I think we can talk a little bit about our main characters. Hold for plane.
Hold for plane, helicopter, whatever kind of transport is ruining the audio on our 84 mics.
We'll see which one handles it the best.
Yeah.
I was saying that I think we can talk a little bit about who our main characters are.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to be like, well, I mean, everybody knows what's happened to Tanjiro's family, but I'm like, I guess if you haven't watched the first episode,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know.
I think that from now on, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the Demon Slayer series, know that we're going to spoil the series. If you haven't seen the series, from here on out, this is like a mini spoiler section. Maybe just like a little, but not the full song. But we're going to have to spoil the series in order to even do a spoiler free of the movie.
Yeah.
So just know that from here on out, the series is getting spoiled. Okay? You got it? All right. Here we go. So Tanjiro's family got killed.
Yes. So Tanjiro, our main character, has an incredible sense of smell. And he's even able to smell if somebody's a good person. Like that's how far we're going into the smells.
Yep.
He also has a very, very hard head. It must be as hard as diamonds.
Yeah.
The way that it keeps coming up.
It's legendarily hard.
Yeah. And he lives in the countryside with his family. He seems like the oldest of a pretty large family of kids. I'd say at the beginning of the series, how old did you guess he was?
At the beginning of the series, I would guess that he's 14.
Yeah.
And then he goes through like 2 years of training. So now he's probably 16 because that's how old every anime protagonist is.
Yeah, I was going to guess maybe starting 13, 14, and maybe now by the time we get to the movie, he might be 15, 16.
Yeah.
And once his family is killed and his sister is turned into a demon, this kind of kicks off this whole adventure for him as becoming a part of the Demon Slayer Corps, which is this ancient society of demon slayers.
Yeah, and his sister turns into a demon, but he has hope and faith that they can find a cure for that. So he's traveling with his sister Nezuko, and they're trying to find a cure for her demonness throughout their adventures. So he always is running into conflict with demon slayers who are like, you're traveling with a demon. we should kill that demon. He's like, no, she's different.
Yeah.
Bro, she's different, okay? And they're like, no, I don't think so. And then there's always these tests of like, well, if she's not a demon, let her out and see if she'll kill me. And then she never does because she's been put under hypnosis that every human being that she encounters, she somehow imagines them as her family and she must protect them. So you see,
and she was already helping Tanjiro before that happened. In the first episode, we're introduced to one of the Hashira, who come into play a lot more in the movie and a lot more towards the end of the series.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? Gyo?
Is it Gyo? Yeah, I think that's right. He's the first one who goes, oh, she's actually protecting him.
Yeah.
They're protecting each other. Like, oh, maybe this could work out.
This demon's different than the other demons. Huh. And he is the water Hashira.
Right.
So, and that's kind of like what Kanjuro is studying as well.
Yeah, so I think we should talk a little bit about who the Hashira are and then also sort of the elements that go into the sort of concentration breathing. If you've ever seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which Joe got me into, I almost called you JoJo there because it was on my brain. If you've ever seen JoJo, you'll kind of recognize some of the structural aspects of this show.
Yeah, for sure. There's kind of like a enemy of the weak structure for a little bit. And then like the more powerful ones, it's broken up over a couple different episodes. And I think even in the movie, there's some similarities to a specific JoJo villain that...
Yeah, and we'll get a little bit more into that later because I kind of was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I say that's kind of similar to JoJo is because you have this structure of a team of people who are fighting different kinds of enemies that have powers that are very unique and specific to that creature, and they have to kind of figure out how to beat that person strategically based on this new power that they're coming across.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have these themes of a certain type of breathing that makes them more powerful. In JoJo, it's, the Hamon.
Mm-hmm.
And in Demon Slayer, it's the
elemental concentration breathing.
Yeah. Tanjiro is kind of going down the water path, and that's what he ends up training in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a self-taught beast boy.
Yep.
Who is Inosuke. Yeah, I mean, they don't mention where his beast breathing could have come from, but in the first episode that he comes on, they kind of say like, oh, this form of water breathing, water breathing, fourth form, and then say what it is, and he'll just be like, self-taught beast breathing, third form. And he always wears a boar's head, and he's kind of wild.
Yeah, and then there's Zenitsu, who is the kind of comic relief of the series. He is... It's interesting, too, because Inosuke is self-taught, but everyone else seems to have had, like, a master apprenticeship thing, because Tanjiro has an apprenticeship who he was taught by, what's that guy's name?
Oh, it's really fun to say, but it's long.
Ubakupakatapataka or something like that.
No.
It's something like that rolls off the tongue very nicely, but he taught him how to breathe and like trained him as a water breathing demon slayer. And Zenitsu had his own sensei that taught him the ways of like thunder breathing.
But but he's very bad at it, and he only is able to do it in his sleep or when he's unconscious, which ends up becoming very important in the film.
Yeah. And he only knows one form of the breathing. So throughout the series, you'll see Tanjiro be like, water breathing, first form, water breathing, second form, water breathing, 10th form, and they're all kinds of different attacks. But Zenitsu only knows one form of thunder breathing, and he honed it so hard that it's like his only attack, but it's like the most devastating version of that form.
Yeah.
And it's very weird when he does like eventually attack with it, because he's such a comic relief, fraidy cat coward type of guy who's always running away from everything. And then when he's unconscious, he just becomes this like insane badass.
Yeah. Which I think that's kind of an entertaining.
It is pretty entertaining.
Yeah. He's his own foil.
Yeah.
You know? And Inosuke, I think, is also some comedy relief. And I think that both of those characters can kind of tiptoe into the irritating category. And it kind of depends on the moment which one kind of goes too far for me.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started watching it, Kat had already completed it, and she was like, "You're gonna find Zenitsu so annoying." And I was watching it expecting him to be super annoying, and I was like, I actually kind of find him funny. I actually think Inosuke is more annoying than Zenitsu, and it's just like interesting who people find it more annoying.
It's Udo Kodakai.
Udo Kodakai.
Udo Kodakai.
That's Tanjiro's sensei, who taught him all of like the demon slayer ways and water breathing.
And it was
everything.
a Hashira Gyu who originally sent him that way to become an apprentice. And you find out much later that character comes back, Gyu, who, like Tanjiro, does the water elemental concentration breathing attacks, is part of this group called the Hashira, which are like an elite group of demon slayers, and they're all very, very powerful and have trained for years and really honed their craft.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu are all three of them very talented in their own ways, but they're still very low down on the ranks. We're in like at the end of the series, we're maybe in like the second book of Harry Potter as far as like the magic level that they've gotten to, so far.
Yeah.
But they're precocious.
Yeah, like the potential is there, but they just haven't mastered all of the skills that are required to be a Hashira yet. And what I enjoy a lot about the series is when they come into contact with a Hashira, they'll see them do their version of their elemental breathing, and they're just like, holy shit, that is on another level. I can't do that. Or if they try to do that, they like get exhausted immediately or pass out or something.
Yeah, I think one thing I love about this series, and then sometimes that can also be frustrating too, is that the main characters aren't immediately amazing.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of setbacks, and they show how much they have to recover and how much they have to train.
Yeah, we're going on the full journey with these characters.
Yeah. And I kind of like that, it can be hard in a series to show like, oh, this was an easier bad guy. Oh, they're ramping up. Oh, that's a really high level, because they seem to always beat them.
Yeah.
And this show kind of mixes things up a bit, where you're kind of like, when are they going to get to that Hashira level? It just feels like it's so far away still. And you feel like they've come a long way, but that it's still so far away, which is just a much more realistic way of training when you're trying to master a skill.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's certain moments in the series and also in the movie where the main characters are like, fuck, like I feel like I've learned so much, but then I see the Hashira and I'm like, I still have so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. I thought that I was like learning a lot of stuff and I don't know shit. And it's like, I've felt that way so much throughout life and the skills and stuff that I've been learning. So yeah, that's what I really relate to. And then that kind of like pulls you into the journey a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think it does. It makes it a lot more relatable.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point too, because a lot of what is going on with the main characters is that they are not the chosen ones. Like,
yeah,
Tanjiro, a thing that happens when they first get their sword that slays demons is it turns a color, and whatever kind of color it turns, it says something about you as a character. And Tanjiro, the main character, his sword turns black, and everyone's like, that's not a good sign. Like, they're like, if your sword is black, that means you're probably not going to last long and you're probably going to die.
Yeah, and we get more information about that in the movie, which I definitely want to talk about. But it's spoilers for sure.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to see like, oh, these guys aren't the chosen ones. They're scrubs, especially like not the main characters that aren't Tanjiro. Like, he seems to be on the path to being a Hashira before Zenitsu and Inosuke.
But like through hard work.
Yeah, no, he's working hard, and the other two are like, eh. But then they just kind of like, they're his toadies because they're buddies.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of the movie at this point.
No.
Like, we have to go through the series first.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're kind of getting close to the end of that, except we haven't talked about Kabutsuchi.
Yeah, the big bad, Jack
Big
White
baddie.
looking motherfucker. He's like the head of all of the demons, and he has the power to turn people into demons with just like cutting them and like I don't think he even needs to give them his blood or suck their blood. He just cuts them and then they
It
turn
seems
into
like he needs to break their skin.
yeah.
But
Because there's a moment in the series where Tanjiro is near him and he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill this guy. I'm gonna attack him, and then in order to distract him, Kubutsuji, he slashes a bystander who immediately turns into a demon. Like it's like instant.
and that's something that's different from other kinds of vampire or demon series is that he is the only one who can turn
Yeah.
people into demon, which makes him kind of this like Adam and Eve character.
Or God.
Sure,
He's God.
he's demon god.
But he's got a crew too. I forgot what they're called. What are they called?
They are called.
It's like their version of the Hashira. Oh, I fucking forgot what the name of the like ranked demons are.
Yeah, it's really bothering me now.
It's one of the 12 Kizuki. Kizuki.
Kazuki. It sounds too much like Pazuki.
I know, right? No, yeah.
Kizuki. That's
Kizuki.
why,
Yeah, there we
'cause-
go.
Yeah.
Kizuki, not Pazuki. It's one of the 12 Pazukis from BJ's Brewhouse. So yeah, he's able. That's his crew. Kubutsuji's crew is the 12 Kizuki, which at the end of the series he like massacres all of the lower ones. He's like, you're not even going to be powerful enough to deal with the demon slayers that we're going to be going up against at this point. So you're just wasting my time, and you're going to just disappoint me. So I'll kill you now, except for one, and that one is like, yeah, it'd be such an honor to be killed by you. You're such a glorious and honorable person. And if you killed me, that'd be the best death that could happen to me. And he's like, I'm not going to kill you. And he's like, okay. And that person is kind of the main big bad of the movie,
Yeah.
which we're finally now getting to the movie.
The first bad.
Big bad of the movie. And his name is Enmu. And he is a very interesting fellow.
He is an interesting fellow. So I guess we'll get into movie spoilers now. Just
Yeah.
Go right
So,
into it.
yeah, the movie picks up right where the series ends, where the Demon Slayers, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, they're set to like go aid the Flame Hashira on a mission. So that's where it picks up. They're on a train to find the Flame Hashira
His name is Rengoku.
Rengoku.
One of the reasons why they were sending them to help is because people had been disappearing off of the trains.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the series, we see a demon attacking, sort of train riders.
Mm-hmm. And that is the start of the movie, and then that's when shit gets real.
Yeah.
So now we gotta get into spoilers.
Yep.
They wouldn't spoil this, right?
Oh,
you
God,
can't spoil this,
spoilers,
right?
don't
spoil
spoiler
this.
talk, anime movie podcast, spoiler talk.
Alrighty. We are in spoilers. We have some camera changes. If you notice that, that's what's going on. Now we're in spoilers for Mugen Train, Demon Slayer Mugen Train. You brought up that it felt like it was like 6 episodes jammed into one. That's exactly what it feels like. The production value isn't any better. Like it wasn't as
I think there was a little bit more oomph in some of the CGI. I think that there were some shots where I was like, oh my God, that looks real.
like I would say that like the scenery that was done with CGI looked really, really real.
Yeah.
At certain points and like really good. But the Enmu, so Enmu is like taken hostage the entire train, and he's like threatening the lives of everyone on the train along with the Demon Slayers. And then he eventually merges with the train. And when he merges with the train, I think that looked horrible.
Yeah, especially because when Tanjiro's still in the shot, he looks like he's cell drawn.
Yeah.
And
It looked so bad. Like when he's just like that giant blob monster, it looked so stupid.
it looked really weird. Yeah. But let's start a little earlier so
Okay.
we can talk about, what happens. We're introduced to Rengoku.
Mm-hmm.
and he asks Tanjiro to sit next to him, and they have this kind of weird conversation. Like he's a weird guy.
He's definitely a weird dude.
He's like kind of unsettling.
It's funny because Inosuke calls him googly eyes and
Or goggle eyes, I
goggle
think.
eyes or something. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Like his eyes are always like so wide and they're bright orange and yellow and red because he's the fire Hashira or flame Hashira. So it's like, oh, we're really showing the colors of the fire, but he looks like a fucking crazy person.
Yeah, and he always has like just a little bit of a smile.
Yeah.
And I should say we watched the subtitled version.
Yeah. We watched the series dubbed
Yeah.
and then the movie subtitled.
Which was interesting as a comparison.
Yeah. Was there anyone whose voice you liked better, subbed versus dub?
Now, I don't remember what Enmu's voice was like at the end of the series,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine a creepier voice for him.
He did have a really
The
great
Japanese voice was perfect.
Yeah, it was. I actually enjoyed Zenitsu's voice in the series more than the movie.
Okay. I was actually shocked at how similar Inosuke's voice is in the dub and the
Yeah.
sub. That
Yeah.
was fascinating. But
Yeah,
I
that was a good
preferred it a little
casting.
bit more in the Japanese.
I preferred the dub a little bit more, and I way prefer the dub of Tanjiro more than the Japanese.
Yeah, I liked Tanjiro
Yeah.
in the dubbed.
Yeah. He seemed more earnest and stuff, and like the Japanese version, I felt like he felt more generic. Like it didn't have a lot of character in his voice, I feel.
Yeah, and like I've talked to you in the past about how I feel like sometimes Inosuke and Zenitsu's characters are played up so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Every scene it has to be like, oh, but don't forget what this person's character traits are like.
Yeah.
Because Tanjiro is so sort of muted down in some ways. Because his character is essentially being just like an absolute heart of gold, that
Yeah.
kind of, heroism.
Though I feel like Zenitsu in the movie and in the Japanese voice actor was more subdued. Like in the dub, he's fucking insane. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'll be watching it and I will like text Kat or like talk to Kat about it and be like, how does that voice actor do it? Like I would love to just see behind the scenes video of the voice actor for Zenitsu doing some of those performances because that voice gets so insane.
It's wild. I don't know how he speaks for days after.
Yeah.
But, I was kind of bringing it up to talk about Tanjiro's personality a little bit because we haven't really talked about his character besides the fact that he's working really hard and that his family got killed and that he
Yeah.
loves his sister. But it comes up as being pretty important in this film about him just being a very good person.
Yeah. He's a pure-hearted soul.
Yeah, really pure-hearted.
Yeah.
So we have some demon stuff that starts up on the train, and then we get an idea of Rengoku's strength, and he's amazing.
Yeah. No, he's a badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, he's like what Zenitsu is able to do like twice in his unconscious mind. He can do it like all day, every day.
Yeah,
And
with
it's like-
every single form of the flame.
Yeah. And that's how you kind of differentiate the power of the Hashira versus just the Demon Slayers, the main characters of the show. Because it's like, oh, you see how powerful these people are in these specific limited moments. These Hashira dudes are like that all the time. It's like, oh, okay, these guys are another level.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this is like a fantasy series, but there's so many stakes that feel real, and not just the stakes of a battle, but the stakes of training and the stakes of recovery, which is really refreshing and it's very, very cool, and it makes you want to root for them more. And yeah, so we think that things are kind of over, but then we see that everybody's fallen asleep. And we were getting weird vibes off of the conductor to begin with. I kind of thought he was going to be a demon.
I thought so too.
And then I was surprised when he wasn't.
Yeah. It's always the telltale sign of evildoers when the eyes are covered and like a hat is covering their eyes and
Yeah.
you just see like that going around. And then it's like, hey, how are you? Can I please see your ticket? And it's like, that guy's up to no good.
Right.
He's got something to hide.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the conductor is. And so I was hoodwinked into thinking that he was going to be the demon that they were fighting in the movie,
Yeah, I thought so too.
or if he was going to turn into something. But nope, just a victim of the demon, basically.
Now, the demon Enmu, who does end up being our head baddie, he's got a lot going on.
Oh yeah. So the mission of Enmu is he sends these kids to tether themselves to each of the demon slayers, get to the edge of the demon slayer's dream, and then find their soul ball orb and then destroy it. So each of them are in the dream, but they have to hide from the demon slayers and find their soul orb to destroy it.
The dream sequences were so good. I think it was employed very, very well.
Yes.
Because it was partly characterization, and then it was, especially for Rengoku, because we don't know him. So it gave him a backstory and made us care about him in this movie. And with the Hashira, we haven't had much information. Like you said, the first time they come up, it's just like name. And we're like,
this is Rengoku, the flame. This is blah, blah, blah. This is the snake guy. This is the butterfly girl. This is the stone guy. This is the wind guy. And it's like, I'm just going to wait until they appear later and learn their names.
Yeah, and this kind of hinted that we're going to start learning more about the Hashira in depth, and that we're also going to learn more about the Kizuki. Why was that so hard?
Pizukis.
No. Yeah, because now I just can't stop thinking about Pizukis. So we get an idea of what he's like as a character, and there's some really interesting stuff about Inosuke in this film.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like his dream and how he views himself and the people around him.
And some of that was like kind of to be expected, and it's kind of pushing this like man-child thing that he has going on, and his like constant competitiveness, and but he dreamt about the train being a creature.
Yeah.
Like, and at first it just seems like abstract, surreal, absurdist. But he dreams about having to attack it. And then later on in the film, they're talking about how incredibly intuitive he is. And that it kind of goes into this sort of like beast thing.
Well, one of the reasons why he dreamt that, I don't know if you remember from the last episode of the series, is he'd never seen a train before. And he thought that was a god or a beast that he had to like slay. And then, so the only person that has seen a train before was Zenitsu. And he's like, have you never seen a train before? And he's like, I'm going to fucking destroy that thing. And he's like, no, dude, it's a train. Like, you get in it. And even in the movie, I
totally forgot.
Yeah. And then even in the movie, he's like, it's so funny being inside of the god. And Zenitsu's like, dude, stop, get out of the window.
And then he wanted to go outside and see if he could race it.
Yeah,
see
exactly.
if he could go as fast as it.
Yeah. But Tanjiro had never seen a train before either, but he was much more like, maybe this is the god of this land. And then Zenitsu, it was funny because it was a weird reversal of Zenitsu being like, are you serious? Like, you've never seen a train before either?
But then, but Inosuke saw it, with like sort of spidery legs and things, and it looked like this sort of evil creature. And he was like in this cave.
Tanjiro starts to kind of figure something's up because he gets a scent of Nezuko from Nezuko coming out of the box and being like, why is everybody asleep? And like, this is really weird. And he's like, wait, where's Nezuko in his dream? And everyone's like, what? She went to go get vegetables in the hills. And then he's like, something's up. It's winter outside. Nobody's picking vegetables right now. It's like snow, like a foot of snow on the ground.
I thought that was a really good detail because, he keeps having these moments where he sees her box and where he's like, how did she go out during the daytime? It was this really fascinating way of describing the way people deal with grief and with change. And, even though this old reality for him is such a familiar experience to come back to, it still feels like coming home, that his relationship to Nezuko has changed so much that he can't think of her as that person anymore. She has completely changed.
Yeah, because now in the dream state, he's like, no, this is the perfect reality. Like, why am I thinking like that? Why would I say that? Like, that doesn't make any sense why I would think like that. But it's like he has the hints of reality still within him.
And then there were those nice kind of inception-y moments where his mom is like, you should just go make a bath.
Yeah.
This kind of like distracting thing. And I liked how his reflection was like, wake up, you're in a dream, wake
Yeah.
up, like people are in danger. I was really worried about him slashing his own neck with his sword because I was like, oh, I don't know.
Because I know that that's supposed to be like, if you die in a dream, you wake up.
Yeah. And I know that's said, but then I was like, oh no, it's going to go wrong.
Well,
It's going to be bad.
And it comes up later in the movie because he starts killing himself like a bunch of times that he's not going to know what's reality anymore. And he's going to maybe kill himself in reality. And that does come up later. And then Inosuke saves him and be like, hey, don't fucking do that. This isn't the dream right now. This is reality.
Yeah.
I was like, that is what I've been waiting for. This is so fucking good.
Yeah. And I love how Inosuke also, in his own dream, he kind of finds the little girl
Yeah.
who's like trying to get his soul center and starts attacking her. And she's like, oh my God, why is this naked boar here?
Yeah.
And I think because intuitively he kind of knows that she's wrong and shouldn't be there. And then later when Enmo is managing to make Tanjiro like continuously fall into this spell, that Inosuke is able to avoid it. And I loved that the eyes couldn't see where his gaze was going, and he knew intuitively where the gaze was going to be hitting, and so he could just totally kick some ass in those situations.
So one interesting thing to me, at least, with the dream sequences is it's like each of them, because the dreams are supposed to be their subconscious, but then like it's the subconscious's subconscious. So Tanjiro has his moment where he's looking into the lake, and then his like reality self is like, hey, wake up, this is a dream. Inosuke has like his beast thing where he's like, something's not right here. I know that this is fishy. And it looks like he got bigger in that state when he was chasing the girl that was in his dream.
Yeah.
And Zenitsu, I feel like, was the most terrifying. Like, he just shows up with like gardening shears. He's like, who's staying in the way of me and Nezuko's love? It's like, what are you doing here? It's just supposed to be me and Nezuko.
I forgot about that.
And then the kid's like, what the fuck's going on? He's like, if you're here, I have to kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. Zenitsu is fucking insane.
Well, when we've seen Zenitsu go into that sort of sleep mode, and then he's able to completely master that first form of thunder breathing, and he just becomes a complete badass. It was very cool to be like, I mean, he hasn't actually totally broken the spell, but he functions very well at this level of consciousness. In fact, a lot better than he does in actual life.
Yeah, he knows that something's up, and he's like, because his perfect day is like him and Nezuko hanging out with the babe, and he's like, this person's here. This is fucked up. This is fishy. And like his subconscious too, or where I think the kid was looking for his soul center, is just darkness, all
it's just
pitch darkness.
black.
And then he shows up, and he's not in his little like Dorito looking kimono. He's in like just all black gear and gardening shear. He's like, what are you doing here? It's like, oh.
And he's like, do I have to feel for it? I don't understand. Just this pitch black darkness. What's going on with Zenitsu?
This is some darker shit that's going on beneath the surface.
And I wanted to go back really quickly because I think that it's when they're on the train before they've fallen asleep, when Tanjiro is talking to Rengoku, and they're talking about the color of his sword. And I don't remember why it comes up. Do you remember?
I do not, but I do remember it comes up, and he says, I've got a black sword, and he's like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I does say that's unfortunate. But what's interesting is that, and this is the thing that we learned in the film that we didn't learn in the series, is that the black sword users don't just master one element,
Yeah.
which
They're usually
means
pretty like fickle and finicky.
yeah, which means, and it seems like normally that translates as being that they become a jack of all trades, master of none,
Mm-hmm.
and then they end up being defeated. They don't. It's very infrequent for them to become Hashira, because Hashira are absolute masters of their technique.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some hints that he might be dipping into other techniques because he borrowed something from a dance from his father, and
Yeah.
it ended up being a flame
Yeah.
breathing technique.
Yeah. And he used it towards the end of the series, and then he uses it again in this movie, it seems like.
And then the movie tells us that the black sword means that he can go into these different elements. So I think that it's probably building towards this idea that he's going to become a master of multiple breathing techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually going to make him more powerful, rather than in the past, black sword users have been unable to become a master of multiple. But I think he's got that will and the drive that he probably will start mastering more and more. And
Yes. Yeah, it seems that way. And when he first got his blade, and we see it's just kind of like a matte black sword, and I'm like, oh, that's, especially compared to the other swords that you see in the series, I'm like, his sword is fucking lame and plain and dumb. Like Inosuke's sword is jagged as fuck, and it looks hyper violent. Like
Yeah,
if you
it
got
really does.
stabbed by that, it would be so painful. And Zenitsu's has like, thunderbolts all over it, and then the flame swordsman's got like flames on it. And so when you look at Tanjiro's sword, it's kind of like, this is just a plain nothing sword, but maybe it's supposed to be some kind of symbolic of like, he's a nobody and he just works so hard, and it becomes like an everyman sword that can take all of the elemental stuff.
yeah, I think you might be onto something with that. And, it kind of reflects how he is as a character, where these other characters are so loud and they're just constantly being like, this is who I am. Look how me I am. Look how me I am, and he's got this like kind of matte thing
Yeah.
going on. This he's not shiny, he's not drawing attention to himself. And
Yeah.
that's partly because he's fairly selfless.
Yeah, his strength, it seems like, is just his kindness and pure soul. Like, even when the invader of his dream gets to around where his soul center is, he's surprised at how like beautiful and warm and just like how breathtaking it is. And it makes him,
Awestruck.
yeah, he makes it makes him feel good. And Tanjiro has these little sprites that just lead the guy to the soul center, and he's like, you took me here simply because I wanted to find it. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, fuck, dude, like, this guy is so nice. He's like, I can't kill this guy's soul center. Like, this dude's so good.
Which is so great, because so many other films have this, like, you can't be nice. If you're that nice, you'll get taken advantage of. You like, this will happen to you. And I like how they're like, but he's so good that
Yeah. That people are like, man, he's so nice, I can't even funk with him.
he didn't want to die, mainly because he was afraid that it would mean the man who stabbed him became a murderer.
Yeah, that's crazy. And Inosuke is just like, I'll fucking kill that guy.
Yeah.
He's like, no, don't kill him. Please don't kill him. And he's like, well, his leg's all fucked up anyway. And he's like, well, then that's his penance. He's done. He's already paid the price for stabbing me. Like, it's fine. And then Inosuke is like, well, I'm going to rip all of his hair out. I'm going to at least rip all of his hair out. And he's like, and then Tanjiro's like, that might be a little overboard, or what. He
Yeah.
says something like, that doesn't seem necessary. Yeah. That's what it was. That doesn't seem necessary.
Now, so we have these stages of baddies doing bad things, where we first have Enmu, and you're kind of figuring out how this dream world stuff works and what his plot is. And then we have Tanjiro initially is finally able to cut his head off. And it was a decent battle. I didn't think that that's where the movie ended.
Yeah, as soon as that guy got defeated, I was like, it seems like there's going to be so much more of this movie. Like, so what could happen next?
Yeah. It feels like we have 3 different bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, and by the way, we're also going to throw in the upper Kizuki.
Yeah.
And I felt like that could have been built up to more, or we could have seen that demon with Enmu earlier, because then we would have been like, oh shit, there's still that other one that's going to show up and he's
Yeah.
an upper.
The looming presence who's like
Yeah.
there with the lower and be like, I'm watching you, see if you can get this job done.
Yeah.
Then maybe you'll like go up the ranks. Like that's not, it's like hinted at just in terms of Enmu wanting to impress Kubutsuji, but Akaza, he's not seen and then he just like randomly pops up and shows up.
And that's kind of what made this structurally feel more like multiple episodes.
Yeah.
I just felt like it would have been really simple to bring that guy in and hint at him earlier, which would have made the whole pacing of the film feel better. I thought it was very cool to get a hinting at the upper.
Yeah. And see how powerful they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does end on a cliffhanger now.
Yeah. I know. And because we were all standing, Rengoku and just like amazed him. Was like, yeah, dude's kind of weird, but he's a good guy and he's very skillful. And he was willing to like take on the 3 of them and make them into really good swordsmen. And
Yeah.
you can, you really feel his loss because you're like, that is such a great talent that's just been lost.
Yeah, exactly. And like they all immediately latch onto him as like a big brother.
Yeah.
They all start calling him like big bro and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, they're going to learn under this guy who seems like a very capable guy. And you see in the movie, like he's like, I'll take care. There's 7 cars on this train. I'll take care of 5. If you guys can take care of 2, that'd be good. And they're like, you're going to take care of 5? And he does. And nobody on the train dies because of his efforts and Zenitsu, oddly enough, who does his lightning strike thing to protect Nezuko.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he starts to fight the upper Kizuki Akaza. That's when shit gets real for Rengoku even.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's very telling because when he starts to fight him, Tanjiro is like, I need to help him. And Inosuke is like, I need to help him. Fucking Zenitsu is passed out, cuddling Nezuko. But they're like, we need to help him. And he's like, do not even attempt to help me because if you do, it's just going to interfere with what I'm doing and you'll get killed. And they're like, okay. And then they start battling and they're like, I don't even know where I would go in. Like they're moving so fast. I can't track their moves. It's like hyper double dutch. They're like, I don't even know where an opening would be. And it's like, oh, this is the next level of shit. And that's where they're going to have to end up at the end of the series, which watching this movie, it feels like the end of the series is going to be like 7 years from now.
It's good. You'd think it'd have to be a long way away because the fact that they've set it up for the long game. They're not making it so that this will be like one and done. There's so much more training to do. He can get so much better. All of them can get so much better. And we still have so many characters to learn about just going through all of the
Yeah, I mean, there's at least like 7 more Hashira and at least 6 or 7 more Kizuki and then Kubutsuji. And we also don't know a lot about the head of the Hashira, aside from his face is all scarred and he's like on the brink of death,
He's
it seems
blind.
like. Yeah. But
and the Hashira deeply, deeply respect him.
yeah, but there's so much more to learn that this show seems like it's going to go on forever.
And I think that it's going to be interesting down the line, remembering that moment where Tanjiro is like with Kubutsuchi in the street and they're so close. They're right there and he has this chance but he's so shocked to see that he's amongst people and has a child and is, hiding.
It's like he's just out in the open. Like he's the head bad guy that killed my family. And he's just walking around with some chick and his daughter.
And at that point, it's, he doesn't even know that he's the head bad guy. All he knows is this is the smell of the demon who killed my family and turned Nezuko into a demon.
And when Akaza shows up, it's like, this is the real shit.
Right.
This is what you're really going to have to get through in order to get to Kubutsuji. We just learned a lot about Rengoku, and now he's dead because Akaza kills him.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating to watch that because, there's this standoff going on where Akaza has his whole forearm through the solar plexus of Rengoku, but he's also grabbed Akaza's hand and has his knife, and he keeps trying to get it a little bit further through his neck.
Yeah.
And it's
then
it's
the
not
sun is coming
totally
up.
going.
The sun's coming up too. I mean, that was Rengoku's plan. It
Yeah.
seemed like he was like, I'm not letting you escape. Like,
Yeah.
I'll chop your head off, or we'll be here until the sun comes up. And then they just let him get away.
Rengoku died, and now that demon hasn't died
Yeah.
and could have died.
Yeah. I mean, did you cry at all during this?
I got teary. With
I got a little
Rengoku.
choked up because there was a long time, and I think they did really well with the music and sound design too, because there was a long time where you just are listening to him breathe and you can tell
Yes.
how fucked up he is.
Yeah.
Definitely some broken ribs. There's a lot of broken ribs in this movie.
All of them.
Lots of broken ribs. But he's just sitting there breathing like,
Yeah.
and it's not him focusing on his flame breathing. It's like, my ribs are broken. That guy punched me in the gut. He punched me in the eye. I'm fucked up right now, and I'm probably going to die.
Yeah.
But yeah, then everybody's crying when he dies.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some crying earlier too. Tanjiro is a lot more emotional in this movie than he has been through the series,
Yeah.
which was interesting. But he expresses the frustration of how much further they have to go, and how actually seeing someone who is so great has actually been really discouraging for him.
Yeah.
And
I've definitely felt that before.
yeah, and in some ways it's like there's a lot of people available now that can train them. But I was so looking forward to Rengoku training them and to like be brought in and start caring about him in the same, sort of.
See, I feel like it never would have worked with Rengoku just because he's so accepting and like such a nice and like willing teacher.
Maybe.
I feel like the person that's going to end up teaching them is going to be Gyo, the water Hashira, because he seems very standoffish, and it's like they're going to have to earn his trust and work that much harder. With Rengoku, he was just like, yeah, come on. You know what? I'll fucking teach you guys.
And it's
It was
sad
like, that was way too easy.
Yeah, and it's sad to see like, oh, he says that he believes in Nezuko now, and he's like, I've seen it for myself. Like,
Yeah.
I believe it now. But he's dead.
dead. It
So
doesn't
he
matter.
can't ever tell like the other Hashira to like,
Well, that's what they got those crows for.
and the master is dying soon.
Yeah.
So he can't protect Nezuko. So I think that's going to become a bigger tension once the master dies. And then I also think that we're going to start to see Tanjiro picking up more and more flame element breathing techniques and attacks.
Yeah. Due to his father, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to kind of step up and replace Rengoku potentially.
Yeah. But to your point, like, I think that Tanjiro words his frustration about the mismatch of skill between the Hashira and himself so perfectly, because he's like, every time I learn a new skill, it's like there's a thick wall ahead of me at the end of that lesson. And I've been there so many times and seeing the skill level, and it was like discouraging, but it was inspirational, but also just so discouraging at certain points. You're just like, fuck, that's so much.
Yeah, and he hadn't really expressed that much doubt since we saw him in the beginning when he was trying to cut the boulder.
Yeah.
And he really didn't feel like he could do it. And again, the series gave so much time to nurture that training and those moments and make it feel so earned in a way that I feel like I've never watched something where I felt like somebody had earned something more in terms of skill.
Well, especially because he gives detailed timelines of how long he had been training. And it's like, I trained for a year. And then he's like, all right, cut the boulder. And it's like, I've been trying to cut this boulder for 2 years or something. It's like, holy shit.
But that whole speech is exactly what you come up against in training,
Yeah.
and some of those really low and frustrating moments when you're trying to become a master at a skill. And it was put so well.
You see how each of them are dealing with it, and Inosuke's like, we gotta train more, like we gotta be better than this guy. And it's like, I felt like that was super emotional when you see Inosuke like crying. But
Yeah. I'd have to say that this film ended on a little bit of an ominous note.
yeah, for sure. But there's gonna probably be 5 more seasons to lift it up.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that we want to cover?
Yeah, I think we should move into amp numbers.
Cranking the amp. All right. Should I'll crank mine first. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 11. I thought it was a good movie. It did just seem like a continuation of the series. It did seem like it was like 6 episodes smashed into one, but I enjoy the series. Like, it's not my favorite series I've ever seen, but it's enjoyable enough.
Yeah.
And like, I felt the same way about the movie, with the deductions for that blob monster.
And actually, the same for me. It's an 8.5 out of 11 for me. Again, some of the CGI wasn't very well blended. I also felt like there was just a little bit they could have done to motivate the appearance of the upper Kizuki Akaza at the end. So I don't know why they decided to make this a movie. Like, that's probably to make money.
Yeah, definitely to make
I think that was a financial decision.
Yeah, they bet well that it would make
Yes.
money. It made a load of money.
Yeah. So that'll be streaming on Funimation, solely Funimation, nowhere else after June 22nd. I imagine it'll probably come out on DVD and Blu-ray shortly after that.
I feel like it's already out on Blu-ray or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway.
Okay.
That is the episode for Demon Slayer Mugen Train. This is our first experimentation with, video podcasting. So hopefully you all liked it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast, rate and review. If you want to reach out to us, it's the Anime Movie Podcast at Gmail. Follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast. And yeah, that's all the plugs, really. Thanks for checking out the review on Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Anime Movie Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast, and you can reach out via email at theanimemoviepodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.